And that's like a classic phrase in our world, where the bigger the company, the harder and the worse it gets. But things do get easier because you have more money to fix your problems, and you have more people you can rely on to delegate, and you've accomplished more. So you have more of that historical track record to look back and say, okay, I know I'm in a tough situation, but if I look in the past, have I been able to accomplish them? Yes. So let's work on accomplishing this one.
I'm Matt Tate, founder of Decimal and fellow entrepreneur. Yes, I'm one of the crazy ones. I've chosen time and time again to hustle my way through that first million. Now, I'm scaling to the next 50. So I know firsthand what the messy middle is really like. And I know that entrepreneurs and leaders like us need a destination for empowerment, community, and encouragement. This is our place. This is After the First Million. All right, folks, today I'm talking to Lee Rubin, CEO and founder at Confetti. I am excited for you to listen to our conversation and to hear her entrepreneurial journey. For some quick background, Lee is a 2023 top 200 female founder. Confetti is number 124 on the Inc. 5000 growth list. And with right around 70 employees and a recent acquisition, Confetti is growing like crazy. For those of us like me currently in the arena, we know it can be extremely difficult to lead through these moments of growth. But you'll recognize how Lee is navigating the messy middle with both poise and grace. Lee, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Matt. I wish I had a little version of you in my pocket to hype me up on the hard days.
We will send you this recording so you can play it anytime you want. I recommend without video. Lee, I always joke that you have to be a little bit crazy to start or run a company. When did you realize that you were one of the crazy ones?
I realized when I was very young, I had as shallow as it sounds, I had a fascination with money that apparently goes even earlier than my memory. But my grandma would claim that she would give us candies when we would go to summer camp, the day camps. And I would come back with money and she'd be like, where's this money from? And I'd be like, I sold those candies. And in fact, I want a big bag of candies so I can sell wholesale, at bulk. I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think that I didn't realize it was crazy until a couple of years in. When that first slap in the face, I was like, oh, this is what people warned me about. This is going to be hard.
Do you remember what that slap in the face was?
Two things that I remember from the early days, because it has been a while. I've been with Confetti for nearly 10 years now in varying capacity, but it started off as an event planning agency that I always wanted to build into technology. I just didn't know how to do it at the time. And one of the challenges was that I didn't really have the support that I wanted from the people around me. Everybody thought I was just a little bit crazy for doing this. And at the time, I was in my early 20s, so I had, to some extent, thicker skin. But finding a technical co-founder was my first really, really big challenge because I got so many mixed feedback. I just feel like we don't talk about enough in the entrepreneurial world is just how much conflicting advice you're going to get. And when you're just starting the journey, you speak to someone, you're like, wow, they're really smart, they're really accomplished, and they told me to do this. And you're like, I'm going to go and do that. And then you realize another really smart and accomplished person is going to tell you to do the complete opposite. So that thing that misled me was don't get a partner for your business. Outsource your engineering efforts. And I lost about 2 years, wasted, lost, learned, grew through my mistakes.
Spent a bunch of money.
Yeah. My own personal savings for over 2 years before realizing that having an agency and engineer wasn't the path that was going to be right for me. And that was the first big phase.
So you started out with an agency planning events, and you ultimately knew that you wanted to build it into a technology. Taking a step back, what about being an agency owner? What about running an agency did you feel wasn't going to let you reach your entrepreneurial goal?
I always wanted to build into tech, and I very quickly saw with events that you can be an event planner, but that wasn't my vision or goal. My vision goal was, how do I produce as many events as possible? And when I really broke down the processes, I was like, tech can do a lot of this. I need somebody technical to help me get through that part.
You bring on a technical co-founder. You ultimately go with/against everybody's advice
Yeah.
and talk about finding that partner, because that's a vulnerable situation.
Yeah. As I said, like the first big thing was just realizing that I needed a partner. And I think that's a really beautiful realization and a helpful tip for other growing entrepreneurs is you really need to know what you're strong at, and you also need to know what you're weak at. Like after 2 years of working with these developers myself, and they were agencies and not getting progress, I was just like, I guess I'm not good at this. I think I'm missing this skill set. So I interviewed over 100 people to find my technical co-founder. And the advice that I still hold as true, your partner in many ways is going to be like your life partner. Like you guys are getting married. Me and my co-founder have now been working together for 6-7 years, which is longer than my fiance. So, and many more to come. I think the average marriage, lasts 5 years or something. So you're really stepping into a very sensitive relationship with someone, and you want to get it right. And you can subscribe to the date one person and marry that one person. If you're very lucky, maybe it will work. But having the perspective of meeting a lot of people. And through those interviews, I realized that I needed someone with very strong communication skills. When you meet a lot of engineers, you're like, okay, some of these people have that strength and some of them don't. And actually, like very few have very good communication skills. And that became a priority for me is like, if I'm going to go down this journey, they don't just need to be a technical genius, but they need to be a fabulous communicator.
I found this in running tech companies, and I found this in even running an accounting company or when I was a lawyer is you need a translator. Like that communication isn't just interpersonal communication. It's how do you translate that technical language that you only somewhat understand? And the more you're in it, the more you do understand. But how do you translate that into real speak?
Yeah.
So communication was a big, important thing that you looked for in finding your co-founder. What were some of the other characteristics that maybe some that you thought you wanted and changed, or that you ended up really wanting and finding?
I'll go with one that was, again, another piece of advice that I think is good advice. Because you're going to be spending a lot of time with your co-founder, you want to like them, like genuinely, like you want to be able to sit and have a beer with them, go out to dinner with them, spend times at board traveling in the middle of whatever it is that you're going to an investor meeting and you have 8 hours to kill because your flight's delayed. That's the person that you want to be able to hang out with. And truly my co-founder and I are so much more than that. And after 6-7 years of working together, we've really just been through a lot. And I think in many ways, my naivety of bringing him on at the time, and it's why I think luck is such a huge part of business. I feel really lucky and grateful to have him by my side. And I don't think I could have envisioned a better partner for myself than what he ended up being. But those are some of the things that I'll leave you with for that note.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in having a co-founder and a business partner is relationships aren't static. It's kind of like go-to-market fit. It's a moving target at times. How has your relationship with your co-founder changed as the company has reached various stages in growth?
It's a good question. And it has evolved. Also, we've evolved as people. That's just what happens over time. We've matured a lot. So when Eyal and I joined forces, one of his first things that he wanted me to do was go raise. That was a very big sticking point. He's like, if we're going to join forces, we need you to go raise money. And when we didn't hold myself accountable to that because we got entrenched in working on the product and got distracted and swept away, eventually there was okay, go raise. And I think there was a lot of really beautiful moments in terms of seeing how we navigated that. And I think we did it better for the Series A than we did it for the seed round, because when you're raising for the first time, and it's really hard when you don't know what you're doing and you're really shooting in the dark. For the Series A, it was only my second time raising money. Right. It was slightly less shooting in the dark, but I think it was just very interesting, I think, from him understanding that this is a pipeline and we're going to get rejected. What's going to feel like a million times. And knowing that's okay. That's part of the process. It's not a reflection on our product. It's not a reflection on our skill set. And what kept us as like the shining light at the end of the tunnel through this entire journey was knowing that like in between all the rejections, like we kept on seeing money come into the bank account and companies still want to use us and people really like our product. And that was always like that hope that we hung on to. First of all, yeah, is like a very cool, calm, collected person. I've got spice in me. I can be mad. I can yell if I wanted to. Like, I got it in me. It's been 7 years. I have not heard that man like raise his voice once. He is just a really gentle creature in the world. Comes to situations very rationally. And first of all, it's definitely something that has rubbed off on me over time because I did not learn that from my family growing up. Let's use indoor voices. But when, let's say, the pandemic hit, of course, there was a fear, especially for a company like Confetti, where I almost felt like, I remember like a personal attack. I was like, wait, one thing we can't do is get together as like human beings. That is the core of my business. But Aya and I are very agile. We're very creative. We're very solution oriented. And we try to approach, first of all, things as rationally as possible, which is like, this is out of our control. Let's make the best out of the situation. And we have a very much like a get to work, let's execute mentality. We just got to work. And seeing our success over the past few years from making that pivot happen and growing to where we have has just strengthened us even more. And Aya's perspective has always been rational, where again, mixed advice, but I've heard the more people, the more money, the more problems. And that's like a classic phrase in our world, where the bigger the company, the harder and the worse it gets. And I was always like, but things do get easier because like you have more money to fix your problems and you have more people you can rely on to delegate and you've accomplished more. So you have more of that historical track record to look back and say, okay, I know I'm in a tough situation, but if I look in the past and see all my other tough situations that I've been in, have I been able to accomplish them? Yes. So let's work on accomplishing this one. And again, very rational, very like straightforward kind of thinking. That's what we did.
No, that's great. So I want to go back a little bit because you've kind of tap danced on it in your story there. Getting traction. So you guys had been building a product, fundraising out, but you'd started getting customers and you had been growing and started to feel good. And then a pandemic hits. Walk me through that. That was a big change. And you mentioned pivot earlier. Talk to me about going through that process. Leading during the pandemic in general for all of us was, I would say, a seminal moment in all of our careers.
Yeah.
Talk about how that was even more so for a business like yours.
Well, there's a lot to share. I think that there's some things that we got, again, lucky on. We had just raised our seed round in August of 2019. We had essentially finished our beta in January of 2020. And we were just launching like our in-person events platform and had that traction. But my heart empathizes so much more with companies that are huge and have so many people. And every day you just see the payroll of their lack of movement, where we were still small and we had this opportunity to take a breath, and we were still nervous and we were still scared for our future. But again, we were very solution oriented. If you remember those early stages of COVID where people were like, is this going to be like 1-2 weeks? And people were like, no, this is going to be like 1-2 months. This is still going to be 1-2 years. There was a lot of that. And we really started to take a look at the platform, and we realized that our platform was built in a really flexible way, where I don't know if it's fortunate or lucky or how smart we were when we built it. I think it's a mixture of everything, but we were very easily able to transition the platform to a virtual first website and platform, so much so that I remember the last invoice that we got for an in-person event and the first invoice that we got for a virtual event, the span between those were 10 days. we pivoted and then sold virtual events so quickly that people were like, were you always doing this? And we were not. But I think one of the things that was really integral for us during that time was we really allowed ourselves to like experiment and play and try new things and realize, okay, if we're going to be all in this boat of this unknown, let's put goals on the board and hold ourselves accountable for that. But let's start to see progress. And we sold our first event and we were like, okay, the goal for the month, something small. It was $5,000-$10,000. But we're like, okay, we accomplished that. We got that $5,000-$10,000. Now let's get it to 15-20. And then before you know it, it's in the millions. Not even that's enough. But it was really just keeping that open mind. And I hope it doesn't come off as insensitive. COVID affected my life, my personal, my professional life. I had to root myself from New York and move to Boca with my parents as a 30-something-year-old. I was like totally disheveled. But in the spirit of being so sucked into our work, it was like nothing else existed. It was just us and the work at hand. And I guess fortunately, because there was nothing else to do, couldn't leave the house, it created a great breeding ground for just efficiency and productivity, and there's nothing else to do.
How big was the team at that point?
We were probably around 10-ish.
So you have 10 people on your team. Pandemic hits, you're uprooting your life because literally getting out of New York was everybody's goal.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And you're pivoting the company and you look at everybody and you say, we've got this. And then you walk away from the computer and you think, I hope.
Exactly.
How did you balance that?
The answer that comes to mind, like unfiltered, is that I didn't, in the sense that I completely overworked myself for the first 3 months of the pandemic, to the point, again, that I was so entrenched. I was waking up at 6 a.m. from these visions, ideas, like things that I had ruminating in my head. And then I would work until 2 a.m. And then I would just get a couple of hours of sleep. And then I did that for 3 months straight, just 18-hour days, like it was nobody else's business. And then after 3 months, when there was kind of a glimmering hope, like, okay, it's safe to step outside-ish, I had moved back to New York and realized I need to find some kind of balance for myself. But I think our traction was that hope. I think the team morale, like our team at the time was just, and I mean, still till today, but when you're small, there's really like a beautiful chemistry and teamwork that was brewing. And it was me and Caitlin, my first employee hire, and Matt, and we were just all committed towards making it work. And it was really beautiful.
So you mentioned something that I think every business owner and entrepreneur deals with. We occasionally overwork ourselves.
Yeah.
And are unbalanced. But I find that when we do reach balance, we're better as leaders. Because one thing I also heard here is 4 years ago, you had 10 people. Today you have 70. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of change in what your role and your job and your life is. How have you maintained that balance?
I'm scared to answer this question because I think I'm a really bad role model for myself and for others when it comes to balance. And
why?
Like, there's something that you said, and I was like, I wish I can agree with that, which is, I wish that when I'm balanced, I feel or know that I'm doing my best work. But I think what most founders struggle with is that when they are balanced and they're doing their 8-10 hour days, it's good. They got their work done. They're ending their night just feeling, oh my gosh, there is a pile of work and things that I haven't gotten to. And unfortunately, I've seen this correlation that when I am working 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days, the business booms. There's no doubt in my mind. There's like a direct correlation that work leads to exponential growth. And as soon as I stop because I'm burnt out, the business declines. And an executive coach once tell me, like, what happens if it's actually like the reverse? And the burnout leads to the decline, and then the resting leads to the growth. Like, what happens if it's reversed? And I think it's really beautiful. I really want to believe that, like with all
Yeah.
my heart. I really do want to believe that. And I think being pregnant now is really the first indicator that's forcing me to like forcibly be balanced. Like, I don't have a choice because physically I just can't. Oh my God, I gotta take naps. I gotta eat more. I gotta stand up more. I gotta catch my breath more. I just don't have another option. It's been really beautiful to see that. And then in tandem, have some really incredible leaders that are taking more ownership, and we're preparing for my maternity leave. And I think that this is finally me like learning that lesson. It's been 10 years and I'm right at the surface of hopefully discovering what it is that you said.
Oh, you've mentioned a mythical thing that I've never actually experienced, which is an 8-hour day.
I know.
Yeah. I've heard
What
that
is?
people are capable of them, but
Yeah, exactly.
I'm old enough that I don't remember the last time I did that.
I just give kudos. I know your father. I'm like, I don't know how parents do it.
One of the things that founders, I would say employers, bosses are good at is, and you see this, life is chaos, right? Even when it's going well, it's still some version of chaos,
Oh, totally.
but we're okay with that.
Good is chaos. Bad is chaos. Neutral is
Right.
chaos. Everything's chaos.
Being a parent is just the same thing.
Mm.
So I've got 3 kids that are about to walk into this house, and we've been practicing being quiet while I'm on here. There's 0 chance that's gonna happen. It's just chaos, but you get used to it. And then what's gonna be funny is when you figure out how similar some of your parenting style is to some of your leadership style, and how your leadership style impacts your parenting style.
Mm.
Those are always fun moments too.
Yeah.
So you're going through a big life change that is going to be a massive impact on how you've always worked. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
You're going through this big life change.
Yeah.
You're saying all the right things. What are you really feeling?
I feel like there's a change. Like, I'm evolving as a person, as a leader. I feel like I'm letting go a little bit more. And I think as leaders, founders, whoever like really takes extreme ownership of their work, they often define themselves as their job. They are like, the output of my work, of this organization, is a direct reflection of my worthiness as a human. And the evolution that I'm going through right now is finally splitting those two things and being like, I will work hard. I will hopefully achieve those outputs. If I don't achieve those outputs, that doesn't define my worth as a human. I'm still worthy. I'm still smart. I'm still a good person who has good intentions, and nothing about the success or lack of success of this business will change that.
It's awesome. I'll be interested how you continue to evolve that too, because I know it's been an evolution for me. And I think one thing that I've always found, my wife's also a working mom, is you have it way harder than dads or single people do. And being a woman in the workforce is hard. Being a working mom is also hard. But I find that when we build a great company and a great culture, we have a built-in support system that other people also don't have.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk a lot about is how I think there were good things that came out of the pandemic, at least for me. It changed how I lead, how I empathize, how I'm willing to be more vulnerable, which I think is helpful in how I lead and how I empathize. We both led through the pandemic. And in the post-pandemic era, you've gone from 10 to 70 employees, people on your team. Talk about how that event, that extended situation impacted how you led and how it changed how you were leading beforehand?
I want to change your question just a little bit because earlier on into the pandemic, I was still a fresh leader. And I think that my growth and evolution as a leader has evolved. I don't want to say because of the pandemic. So that's the thing is that I'm changing. I think that growth has happened because of like the people around me and the learnings and the lessons that we went together. And growing a business exponentially, stagnating and having that neutral or seeing the bad side of everything's crumbling, everything's falling apart, all of that is going to test you and your team. And each of my employees contributed to my leadership in a really meaningful way that I know has just evolved me outside of the professional confines of Confetti. And I often tell people, this isn't just a professional journey. Like when I hear work-life balance, I literally think of like a balance beam separating work and life. And so many employers are trying to create this distinguishing thing where it's like really this integration. It's the two things together. It's just life. We have to work while we're living, and we're working with other humans that are spinning on this planet in the middle of nowhere. We're all just surviving. And in that, there's an opportunity to take these people that you're spending a lot of time with. There's a world where you're probably spending more time with certain employees than you are with your kids or with your wife or whatever. Like these are people that are going to get to know us very deeply. And it's important that there's a very vulnerable and open relationship with them. And one of the things I'm forever grateful for is, if I can be frank, in spirits and moments of me being hard on myself, but still nonetheless, I'll say like in moments where I was a crappy leader, I had certain people that saw past those moments for me and allowed me to apologize, gave me the constructive feedback, talked through those things, had those hard conversations with me and watched me become a better person for them. It really is just like a relationship. You wish you partner up with someone and say like, be perfect, 10 out of 10 for the rest of your life with me and we won't argue. But it's not how relationships work, whether it's your friends, your family, your significant other, your kids. People dynamics are complex and it requires work, and we're sometimes going to show up to one another in crappy ways. And giving each other the opportunity to evolve and grow and lead through it is something I'm personally forever grateful for.
One of the things you've talked about, and you are an exceptionally empathetic person and a very caring person. But when you're growing a business and things get hard and you deal with growing pains, sometimes you have to balance the people side with the business side. And every company, and I know yours has gone through growing pains. How have you balanced that empathetic humanity with the drive and desire to succeed?
Ooh, I'm scared to answer this question because I think I still haven't perfected the answer. The unfortunate reality about business is that it's a business. You have to have humans to make it work. Humans can make it fail, but it's a dollars, cents, it's an Excel sheet with finances. That's where it really boils down to at the end of the day. And it's really hard to balance all the employee elements of things. The way that we've balanced it is through transparency as much as possible as we can. I don't think we'll ever get enough credit for how transparent we are because I think employees just always feel like they're hearing things second or third or last. And there's good intentions, but there's this reality where we're figuring things out. People want to get answers from me and I'm like, I don't even know the answer for these things yet. Like we're figuring things out, but we're going to do the thing that's right for the business. And when thing that's right for the business doesn't match the thing that's right for the employee, I think that's where humanity comes in, and you have to do things as much as possible to do right by a person. I know that you probably have stories. I have stories, plethora of stories of employees that took advantage of the business. And we also know stories of companies that take advantage of their employees, and that's really sad. And I don't think either of us are building that kind of organization. That one's tough. You want to balance it all and you want to always be human first, but I don't think businesses are ever going to get the full credit for it, as much as they try. Whether it's a lack of resources, I wish I can give my employees certain benefits. We literally can't afford it. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make us a bad business? Or does that just mean this is where we're at right now? This is what we can give. Did that answer your question?
Better than I think you think it did.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
One of the things you said, we will never get credit for everything we do. And that's part of the isolation of being in our role, I think, is we accept that's part of what comes with the job. But I think one of the things that you're doing differently at Confetti, and we're trying to do it at my company at Decimal, is create a community, a place where people feel like they're part of something.
Yeah.
And that they feel like we're doing the best we can. Maybe they don't always believe it, but we try to do enough to make them believe it. But I also think there's a bargain that goes with it. Something I tell all of our new employees. We're striking a deal today. You're going to do what you say. You're going to work hard. You're going to be a good member of this community. I'm going to provide you with a place that you can call home. And we're going to provide you with a safe place where you feel seen, where you feel like you can achieve, and you feel like you can stay. And I'm going to be as transparent as possible. And that's the bargain that we all strike.
Something that you said that makes me think about is kind of the classic saying of cream rises to the top. And I see that my best employees, they don't question us as much, right? They're easy to work with. They're hard workers. They understand that the company is constantly evolving and adjusting, and they're going through that with us. The ones who are helping the business contribute, and they're team players, and they're always looking forward, and they have a leadership and growth mindset. That's the cream that rises.
As this is recorded, I think we may want to amend that statement, because I think that one thing that you're really saying here is the best team members are the ones that ask the right questions and focus on the right things. And they don't get distracted by the bullshit.
Totally.
That, I think, is really what it is, the people that focus on the right things. So as you've grown, you've gone from, we keep mentioning this, 10 to 60 employees over a couple of years is a lot of growth. And you have a lot of team members who have stuck with you, who have been that focus on the right things, focus on the mission, focus on the goal. How has your role changed from I've got 10 employees, we're pivoting, we're going to do this, I'm going to work 18 hours a day, which isn't really possible for extended periods of time beyond maybe that 3-month window during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But life's back to normal now-ish,
Yeah.
if normal is a thing. How has your role changed?
My role has changed mainly from more of an individual contributor to a manager and a leader. That's really the simplest way that I can put it. I used to be very hands-on. I used to be very in the details of every single thing, reviewing every single email, a part of every single customer that was frustrated. And now I have teams that do those things, and we look at data and we see what data turns into patterns, and we analyze those patterns and to solutions about what those patterns evolve to be.
That's great. Now, as you guys have experienced all this growth, and we're excited for what's coming next, as you kind of focus on the next stage at Confetti, what do you need to do to be better to help the business reach those next couple of stages?
We have revenue goals that need to be hit. I say we aren't always this way, but to me, after a fundraise, the years are split into 3. That's the most simple way, or the period of time between your last raise and your next raise is split into 3 segments. The preparation for that next stage of growth, the growth, and the efficiency. And we had last year the preparation for this growth. This year is our growth year. Next year is going to be our efficiency year. where profitability and making sure everything is tied up and good to go. But in this growth year, revenue is our focus. And so to me, I go to my VP of sales, I go to my VP of marketing, I go to my director of customer success and support, and I say, I am your resource. Whatever you need from me to succeed is what I'm here for. My calendar will be cleared if you need me. And some of it is building playbooks and creating materials. Some of it is being a backboard for their ideas and questions and thoughts. Occasionally, it's a little bit of IC work because I think I like to get my hands a little dirty. The details.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, just to stretch my fingers, make sure that I still have it. But yeah, top priority is like, we have numbers, we need to hit them. What do we need to do to hit them? And I can go into the details, but I don't think it will be that helpful for the listeners.
So you mentioned occasionally putting your hand in IC work. And It's something that I like to think about and I talk with our team about is sometimes I just like to get in there and do stuff. It energizes me to go help with a sale. I'm not allowed to really sell. I'm not allowed to price things. There's a lot I'm not allowed to do anymore in my role.
Yeah, same.
But I still love to get into it. And some of my best days are the days that I'm rolling up my sleeves and helping. What energizes you? Is it fundraising and board meetings?
Oh, definitely not. Hope our board members don't watch this one. But things that bring me energy. I love to see my team take full ownership. I love to see my team be one step ahead of me. That's my drug. When a person or department leader has its department covered, and you know that they know that department, they know that team, they know next steps better than you could, I go to bed that night and I sleep well. And I take care of those people because they're freaking awesome.
That's great. So you're still mid in this journey and you have some years to go, mostly. Would you do it again?
So entrepreneurship is not something that I'm going to give up on. I think that I learned in the process of these 10 years that entrepreneurship has many different shapes and styles and scales and all that kind of stuff. And I would do it again. I would just do certain things differently.
Like what?
I might get in trouble. Like what? I think this will most likely be my last tech startup. I love technology, but I love building things physically with my own hands. I like having a little bit more control. And as you and I talked about a little earlier, I don't have any control anymore. I don't know if I was supposed to or I wasn't supposed to, but people are like, you're the CEO. I'm like, I can't make decisions. Like, we built such a democratic company and such a data-driven company. I can't just wake up and say, like, I want to do this tomorrow. Like, I have no opportunity to do that anymore. That ship has sailed. But this is how I feel right now. I don't know. It's been 10 years. It's been a challenging 10 years. Maybe I'll feel differently in 10 years from now. But I want to get a little bit more back. First of all, I want to get out of it just sitting in front of a computer all day. Like, I want to be able to stretch my legs a little bit more in the morning. Standing desk won't do it for me. I want to be able to have some other philanthropic impact in the world because it's a little tough to see so many different places of this planet that need a little bit more love and finding and putting the resources towards that. So those are the things that I look at afterwards. Would I do it again? It's so hard to say. Like, I've acquired so many incredible talents that it's so hard to just give up on that if we were to go back in time. But I can probably say I don't think I will do it again.
A couple more questions. I'll let you go. So I am the father of 2 young daughters, and they've got a great role model in their mom. But as you and I know, it's a lot easier for me than it is for you. What advice would you give to young girls that are thinking, I want to get into business. I can do this. Should I do this?
I think that if they want to do it, they should go for it. That's the advice. Just do it. Yeah, 100%. Just do it. Chase after your dreams. Do the things that make you happy. Learn. Feel all the feels.
I tell them all the time that do hard things. You learn from those. They're not fun all the time, but you learn from them.
Nope, but yes.
All right. Lee, before we wrap up, I'd love for you to answer one more question. What piece of advice would you give yourself when you're first starting up that you know today you didn't know then?
Nobody knows anything. Follow your heart, but keep an open mind and learn and be data driven and be a good person. And that's kind of it.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit of be true to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. My confidence was so poor when I was just starting out, and like everybody who was just 1, 2, 5, 10 steps ahead of me would make me tremble. And then I realized, wow, we're all just really figuring it out. Like the more successful people that I meet, the more that they're like, oh my gosh, this shit's so hard. I don't know what I'm doing.
Lee, thanks again for joining the episode. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening. After the First Million is presented by Decimal. To listen to more episodes and find tips to help make running a business easier, visit decimal.com/AFM. Want to join the conversation? Reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's explore the messy middle.